This year is the 400th anniversary of the first encounter between the Mayflower Pilgrims and the native Wampanoag tribe. The Wampanoag had lived in southeastern Massachusetts for more than 12,000 years before Europeans arrived. There's the story most of us learned growing up, that it was a peaceful encounter in which the Native Americans welcomed the pioneering pilgrims for a celebratory feast. And there is the story that many of us learned later on, that between the diseases brought over by the pilgrims and their insatiable quest for land and resources, the impact on the Wampanoags was devastating. Thanksgiving is a holiday that calls us to reflect on the values and the dreams that underlie this nation. Some of these dreams are myths, false notions of what we think we are or once were. The traditional story of the first Thanksgiving is one example of this. But others are dreams of what we hope we can become and of the values that we strive to exemplify. One of these values, which is woven into both the fabric of our nation and of our Unitarian Universalist tradition, is freedom. When I was growing up, hanging over my grandparents' recliners was the Norman Rockwell series of paintings called The Four Freedoms: freedom from fear, freedom of worship, freedom of speech, and freedom from want. Freedom from want depicts a smiling, white 1940s family gathering around an elegantly arranged Thanksgiving table. Grandma is setting down the enormous turkey platter with Grandpa looking over her shoulder. Many who look at this painting might associate it with old-fashioned white Americana. What I didn't know as a child, and what many others aren't aware of either, is that Rockwell painted this as a commentary on President Franklin Delano Roosevelt's 1941 State of the Union address. President Roosevelt used the expression freedom from want to speak about freedom from hunger, deprivation, and poverty, which he called a fundamental freedom for all people. That same year, 1941, President Roosevelt signed into law a bill passed by Congress establishing a national Thanksgiving holiday on the fourth Thursday of November. This national holiday, first established by President Lincoln in 1863 on the last Thursday of November, was the lifelong campaign of a woman named Sarah Josepha Hale. Sarah was the literary editor of Godey's Lady's Book, the most widely read magazine of the 19th century. In her magazine, she published numerous editorials advocating for a national Thanksgiving holiday, emphasizing that such a celebration in its abundance of gratitude brings out the best sympathies of our nature and has a positive moral influence. She also advocated for a national Thanksgiving holiday as a way of unifying an increasingly divided nation. In 1854, she wrote, "It would be better to have the day so fixed by the expression of public sentiment that no discord would be possible, but from Maine to Mexico, from Plymouth Rock to Sunset Sea, the hymn of thanksgiving should be simultaneously raised." In 1859, she wrote, "We are already spread and mingled over the Union. Each year, by bringing us oftener together, releases us from the estrangement and coolness consequent on distance and political alienations. Each year multiplies our ties of relationship and friendship. How can we hate our Mississippi brother-in-law? And who is a better fellow than our wife's uncle from St. Louis?" And in 1860, she wrote that such a holiday might quicken the sympathy that makes us feel from the icy north to the sunny south that we are one family, each a member of a great and free nation, not merely the unit of a remote locality. Of course, her hopes of uniting a nation with this holiday were not fulfilled, as the Civil War broke out in 1861. But Hale appealed to President Lincoln again and again and again. And finally, in 1863, he proclaimed a Thanksgiving holiday in hopes of beginning to heal a country wounded by the Civil War. We live in a divided nation today, a nation in which our Mississippi brother-in-law and our wife's uncle from St. Louis are sometimes seen as enemies. A nation in which distance and political alienation were made blindingly visible by this month's election results. A nation in which, due to the risk of coronavirus, it's not safe to gather around tables like the family in Rockwell's painting, or like Sarah Hale encouraged us to do. And a nation in which many do not know the experience of freedom from want, but instead are questioning their place in this land of freedom and plenty, because that is not their reality. Which leads me to Carlos Bulosan, the author of our reading today. I shared with you some excerpts of his essay, Freedom from Want, which was published alongside Norman Rockwell's painting in the Saturday Evening Post in 1943. Bulosan was a young Filipino-American migrant worker, labor organizer, author, and poet. Bulosan came to America at age 17 and, ironically, ended up dying young at age 30 due to poverty and persecution. His essay expresses a dream of this nation and faith in this nation that he struggled to hold on to as he saw us again and again not live up to the values we profess. It is only when we have plenty to eat, plenty of everything, that we begin to understand what freedom means, he wrote. Freedom from want naturally leads to other freedoms. When our basic needs are met, we are freed to enjoy life more fully, to follow our passions, and to better our communities. His essay was a call for justice in the shape of bread, and a call for sharing abundance where it exists so that we will all be better off. When I think about the story of the Europeans who came to America seeking freedom from religious persecution, and when I think about the story of Sarah Hale, who was determined to unite the moral sympathies of a nation, and when I think about the story of Carlos Bulosan, who held on to faith in this nation even as he experienced disillusionment and marginalization, there are enduring values that run throughout. Values that are held up as the ideal and not always fully or justly lived out, but which nonetheless remain foundational and worthy of our living and continue to call us back to who we want to be. We still value freedom. Freedom of religion, freedom from want and fear, and we value justice. We value unity and grieve the dividedness of our nation. We value family and community and grieve the loss of safety in large gatherings. What do these values and our Unitarian Universalist faith call us to do now? As the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, the president of our Unitarian Universalist Association, wrote in a post-election message, action rooted in one's values, rooted in what we love and know to be true, kindles the fire of hope and inspiration in our hearts and in our communities. Hope is not found by being bystanders. Hope grows when we show up for justice, for love, and human dignity. Unitarian Universalism, she says, calls us to repair the moral basis of our common life, facing and addressing the injustices that COVID has laid bare, to create the inclusive, anti-oppressive world we imagine. This Thanksgiving, let's build this inclusive world that we imagine and dream of, where abundance is shared and where all are free from want. One way our congregation has already begun doing this is through the incredibly successful collection of boxes of stuffing for Dallas's hungry families to be distributed through City Square. We surpassed our goal of 800 boxes and ended up donating over 1,100. A box of stuffing may seem small, but as Carlos Bulosan pointed out, when we have plenty to eat, we begin to understand what freedom really means. We're living our values one box of stuffing at a time. Now I wonder what story we will tell about Thanksgiving 2020. Maybe that it's the year we learned to be grateful for what we have even when life feels really hard. Maybe it's the year we cleared away all of the fuss of the holidays and focused on what truly matters. Maybe it's the year we realized our deep connection with others, even across distance, and decided to work for freedom and justice for all. The story of Thanksgiving 2020 probably won't involve a lot of scenes like in the Rockwell painting. The words of Sarah Hale may bring some comfort in this regard. As we all, near and far, observe Thanksgiving on the same day as she dreamed, she says, though the members of the same family might be too far separated to meet around one festive board, they would have the gratification of knowing that all were enjoying the blessings of the day. For this, friends, we can be grateful. Let us enjoy the blessings of the day and share them with others. Let justice come in the form of bread and freedom from want. Let us respond to the call that persists across the generations to live our values. And when we fail to live up to them fully, let us recommit to them again and again. Until President Roosevelt's and Norman Rockwell's foundational freedoms are not merely a dream, but a reality for all. May it be so. Amen.